disagreed. Very big disagreement we had, but I attended his last Vyasa Puja ceremony in Dallas, and I offered my homage. You know what he did? He got off the Vyasa-san and gave me a big hug. So my last association with TKG was a big embrace. And after that he departed, but that's my memory. I still pray to him sometimes and beg for his blessings for my spiritual life and for my preaching. So he's still with me in my heart, and in spite of our disagreements, we have that loving, embracing mood with each other, and I still remember so many wonderful pastimes with him. Actually, another interesting thing, after I got married, in his quarters, he had a big quarters with a darshan room, a kitchen, a dining area, his bedroom, but there was an extra room, like the guest quarters, and he gave that to me and my wife. We lived with him in his quarters. And that was a very special thing. We lived sharing the same quarters with Goswami Maharaj. So anyway, I have a lot of nice memories of him. He's very dear to me, and I was hoping you'd invite me to speak something today, and Krishna fulfilled my desire. So here I am sharing some feelings and some memories of this wonderful personality, His Divine Grace, Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. So thank you very much. Let us always try to please Him by our thoughts, our words, our deeds in all times, places, and circumstances. And by so doing, He'll be present with us. I remember when I was in Atlanta in 1975, in April, Prabhupada explained his own memories of his spiritual master. He said, it's not that the spiritual master is dead and gone. He said, I feel He is with me, He is seeing me. In this way, the disciples can always feel connected with their spiritual master and never think that he's dead and gone, because the spiritual master has two presences, Vani and Vapu. Vani is his instructions and Vapu is his physical body. So the physical body may be gone, but the Vani is still there, and the two presences are here and forever into the future.
Please give your offering. नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपदाय नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपदाय भूले श्री भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी प्रार्थनाय। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, जय अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम राम। आयास्त प्रभु जी, सबसे पहले मुझे एक बात याद आ गई। जब प्रभुपाद क्वार्टर में मेरी दीक्षा हुई पहले दिन, तो प्रभुपाद जी ने मेरी माला जप करने वाली मांगी और जप करना शुरू किया, और साथ में मैं भी जप करता रहा। बगल में तमाल गोस्वामी खड़े थे। उनकी यादाश्त उनको आदमी भूल नहीं सकता। जैसे पहले स्पीकर ने कहा कि जो भी तमाल गोस्वामी जी को देख लेता था तो उनको भूलता नहीं था, तो मेरा भी वही हाल है। पहली मुलाकात मेरी दीक्षा के समय हुई, जब तमाल गोस्वामी वहाँ पर खड़े थे। और दूसरा, जब मेरी दीक्षा हो गई, मेरा नाम दे दिया श्री धामदास, तो मुझे प्रभुपाद जी ने कहा कि रूल रेगुलेशन पता है? मैंने कहा हाँ जी। फिर भी प्रभुपाद जी ने तमाल गोस्वामी को बोला कि अगर इनको नहीं पता है तो इनको बताइए। उन्होंने बताया नहीं मुझे, क्योंकि मैंने बोल दिया था बीच में मुझे पता है। और दूसरी और मेमोरी मेरे से जनेऊ मांगा, सेक्रेटरी मांगा, दीजिए। मैंने उनको दिया, लेकिन वो कहते इसको खोलो। अभी मैं अकेला प्रभुपाद जी के कमरे में बैठा हूँ तो मैं बड़ा घबरा गया, और वो जो जनेऊ था वो उलझ गया। तो प्रभुपाद जी ने तमाल सिंह गोस्वामी जी के कहा कि आप खोलिए। वो अपने कमरे में बैठे थे, उनको बुला के खोला। वो धागा उनसे भी नहीं खुला, उलझ गया, इतना उलझा दिया था मैंने, उनसे भी नहीं खुला। फिर प्रभुपाद जी ने बोला ठीक है मुझे दो, मैं बोलता हूँ। प्रभुपाद जी ने 1 सेकंड में खोल दिया। ये मेरी मेमोरी है। परम पूजनीय तमाल कृष्ण गोस्वामी का जन्म जो है 18 जून 1946 को हुआ। लगभग भौतिक गणना के अनुसार मेरी और महाराज की उम्र बराबर है, लेकिन आध्यात्मिक जीवन में तो बहुत मेरे। उसके बाद जीवीसी सेक्रेटरी रहे, भारत में भी रहे, बीवीटी के इंचार्ज भी रहे, बीवीटी के ट्रस्टी भी रहे। और उन दिनों जो मैगजीन आया करते थे 71, 2, 3 में, तो विदेशों से मैगजीन आते थे, बीवीटी जो बैक टू गॉड मैगजीन जो है, तो उसमें तमाल कृष्ण गोस्वामी जी की बहुत सारी तस्वीरें आया करती थी, बहुत सुंदर तस्वीरें आया करती थी। वो बसों में बैठ करके बस के पीछे तरफ मंदिर बनाया होता था, और भक्त भी थे उनके साथ, तो वो किताबें बांटते थे पूरे अमेरिका में। तो राधा दामोदर पार्टी का नेतृत्व भी किया उन्होंने। उसमें हमारे बहुत सारे गुरु भाई प्रभुपाद जी के शिष्य शामिल थे, जिन्होंने बसों में अमेरिका भर में यात्रा करके प्रभुपाद जी की किताबों का वितरण किया। प्रभुपाद जी चाहते थे कि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा बुक्स का वितरण हो, तो महाराज जी ने प्रभुपाद जी की आज्ञा मान करके वो किया। उन्होंने संसार में इस्कॉन मंदिरों और केंद्रों की स्थापना में अपना सहयोग और नेतृत्व किया, चाहे वो वृंदावन, बम्बई, इवन मायापुर का भी नेतृत्व सहयोग दिया उन्होंने श्री प्रभुपाद जी के सेक्रेटरी और भारत के जीवीसी के रूप में भी योगदान दिया है। वृंदावन, बम्बई तथा मायापुर के प्रोजेक्ट्स के विकास के लिए भी बहुत योगदान है महाराज का। श्री प्रभुपाद जी के बहुत ही प्रिय और भरोसेमंद शिष्य थे क्या है, क्योंकि वो वैष्णव है वो कभी मरता नहीं है, तो वो हमेशा ही हमारे साथ है। तो प्रभुपाद जी के बड़े ही विश्वसनीय और प्रिय शिष्य रहे। 1970 में जब प्रभुपाद जी का प्रयाण हुआ, तो उस समय तक पर्सनल सेक्रेटरी के रूप में उन्होंने प्रभुपाद जी के पर्सनल सेक्रेटरी के रूप में कार्य किया है। हालांकि वो धार्मिक शिक्षा तो बहुत ग्रहण की प्रभुपाद जी से भी उन्होंने, और मटेरियली भी भौतिक यूनिवर्सिटियों में भी उन्होंने शिक्षा ग्रहण की है। उन्होंने धार्मिक शिक्षा में बीए, स्नातन और एमए की डिग्री प्राप्त की है, और साथ साथ में बाद में कैम्ब्रिज विश्वविद्यालय में पीएचडी करने लगे थे। पीएचडी किसमें की थी? उनका थीसिस थे जो प्रभुपाद जी की शिक्षाएं हैं, प्रभुपाद जी के बुक्स हैं, उनके ऊपर थीसिस लिख रहे थे वो। लगभग खत्म हो गया था थीसिस, उनके रिसर्च जो थी वो खत्म थी, लेकिन सबमिट शायद वो नहीं कर पाए थे उस समय तक। तब तक जो भगवान को मंजूर है, कृष्ण को मंजूर है, वैसा ही होता है। तब वो जब मायापुर जा रहे थे तो रास्ते में 15 मार्च 2002 में कृष्ण सेवा में वो लीन हो गए। यहाँ भी कृष्ण सेवा कर रहे थे, प्रभुपाद जी की सेवा कर रहे थे, और भगवान ने अपने पास बुला लिया उनको, ताकि वहाँ भी वो जहाँ भी हैं, जहाँ भी क्या मतलब गोलोक धाम में है वो, और वहाँ जाकर के कृष्ण की सेवा में अभी भी लगे हुए हैं। तमाल कृष्ण गोस्वामी महाराज के, प्रभुपाद की। धन्यवाद। हरे कृष्ण।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सिद्धांत प्रभु। तो आप विस्तार रूप से महाराज के बारे में बहुत सुंदर रूप से बताया सबको। तो द नेक्स्ट आई एम गोइंग टू share your memories and realizations of Maharaj.
Inviting me to speak something about Goswami Maharaj. I was only informed about 10 minutes ago of this gathering. And, it's a great honor to be here. Tamal Krishna Srila Prabhupada, the most important person in my life. Of course, there are many important people, starting from my mother, father. He was the second most important person because he was my Siksha Guru in many ways. He was my older brother and he was a very, very close friend. And he did so many favors to help me. First, we were acquainted when I was temple president in Miami. And the Radha Damodar party used to spend their winters on our temple property with the bus they would park. So first that was only Vishnu Jan Swami and his devotees. And then, as you know the history, later Tamal Krishna Maharaj came and joined the party. And he came. And he told me he was quite eager to find out who I was because in those days, Radha Damodar was, we had this book distribution competition, and Miami Temple was sometimes second, sometimes third, moving up and down. And Radha Damodar, of course, was also moving up and down in those same numbers. So one of the things about Goswami Maharaj, he was very transcendently competitive. So he wanted to see, who is this young upstart who's trying to compete with me? But he always did that in such a joyful manner, in such a happy way. It was so fun to be in a competition with Goswami Maharaj, because it was clearly just for pleasing Srila Prabhupada. So we got well acquainted then, and he used to stay for a few months in the winter times there. Then I was moved, Srila Prabhupada asked me to be temple president in Calcutta. And I again started to interact with Goswami Maharaj quite a bit. Most importantly, in 1977, Goswami Maharaj had become the, you can say, the in-charge in Srila Prabhupada's last period when his health was failing. So I spent a lot of time traveling with Srila Prabhupada, as I've mentioned sometimes, and that was always with Goswami Maharaj. He was mostly there. And so again, we had a lot of very intimate interactions because in that time, when Srila Prabhupada was fluctuating in his health, up and down, sometimes we were very elated together and embracing in happiness together when Prabhupada's health would seem to improve. Then other times when Prabhupada's health would sink, our hearts were broken and we were almost crying out loud together. So those type of emotional agitations churn the heart. And we shared those together, and that brought us very close. He was always very worried about me, and I'm very grateful for that. I was also doing business. I was temple president in Calcutta, but I didn't like to live off the temple. I never liked to do that. So I was exporting from India to America to pay my expenses. And Prabhupada had always encouraged it. He never discouraged it. But Goswami Maharaj was a little worried about it because in those days, you know, Goswami was a very strong sannyasi and he liked that, push the renunciation. So I was visiting on one of my business trips from Calcutta to New York. I was visiting to see Prabhupada here. And Goswami Maharaj, Prabhupada said to him in the room, he told me later, Prabhupada said, oh, I've seen Abhiram, he was in the darshan. And Maharaj said to Prabhupada, yes, Prabhupada, he's left his wife in Mayapur to live and he's traveling to do business. Now Goswami Maharaj told me that he was hoping to get me in a little trouble that way. That Prabhupada might correct me and say, no, don't go doing business. But immediately Prabhupada said, yes, what business is there in Mayapur? And he said, tell him to go to Bombay. Many people, a poor man goes and becomes very rich, you know. And then he told Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and I feel a little embarrassed to say this, but it's important to illuminate my relationship with Goswami Maharaj to tell you. So Prabhupada then told Goswami Maharaj, see that Abhiram is not lost. After I have trained him so much, for me, and I felt very, very grateful that this happened. And then in the same conversation, Goswami Maharaj prodded Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, you know there's a lot of service now, we don't have enough men to help care for you. And Prabhupada said, Abhiram can go, ask him. So then I came in to stay with Prabhupada. This was, I think, in June 1977. So then again, of course, my relationship with Goswami Maharaj went much, much deeper in terms of this emotional roller coaster that we were on, up and down. It was extremely dramatic in these last months. As you all have read the history, some of my older godbrothers were aware, and some were even in Vrindavan at that time. So Goswami Maharaj was really anchor. Srila Prabhupada's emotions were quite, he was overflowing with emotions of love and appreciation, and thinking of management and practical things were really a burden for him. So Tamal Krishna Goswami became really the foundation for the whole society at that time, because letters were flooding in every day, and many of them were asking management direction. And we made a practice, I was also involved in the secretary work, that we would not take any management issue to Srila Prabhupada, unless it was an extremely big issue. We would only bring him good news, because now he was really very much taxed and emotional, taxed with the physical troubles, very emotional and feeling very deeply his real, eternal, I don't know how to describe that, but it was a very unique time in Prabhupada's period on this earth. So what we would do is we would answer the letters, even the spiritual questions, from Prabhupada's books. And then we would take it to Srila Prabhupada and summarize. We would say, this devotee asked this question, we have answered like this. And Prabhupada mostly would nod. On a few occasions he would add something. And then it was signed, on behalf of Prabhupada. Now, I know Tamal Krishna Maharaj was a very strong personality, and amongst us, God brothers, God sisters, naturally we're brothers, sisters, we have our own little quarrels, our own little, knockabouts. This is part of love also.
Diversity.
It's part of love, no? it's not all, you know, roses and rainbows, you know, and unicorns. We have our own disagreements and arguments, and Tamal Krishna would often be in the center of that, and some people, you know, had some feelings, you know. And some people have unfortunately taken those feelings to a very negative level, which is very unfortunate. First of all, it's one of the 10 offenses, because certainly Tamal Krishna Maharaj had fully dedicated himself to the spreading of the holy name of Krishna. And he was an extremely important foundation of the ISKCON movement. But I will give you a quote from Srila Prabhupada that should dispel any doubts in anyone. I was here in this room caring for Prabhupada. Tamal was sitting by Prabhupada, sitting on the floor next to Prabhupada's bed, leaning up near him, speaking about a few things. And Prabhupada reached over and put his hand was a little trembling, put his hand on Goswami's arm, and he said, "You are a Vaishnava. Please bless me, that I will never forget Krishna." This was Prabhupada's words to Tamal Krishna. Through these ears and in these eyes, I witnessed this. So you can all say, others can say whatever they dare, well, please, I don't care. Because the final authority has spoken. He was a Vaishnava. And being a Vaishnava is not a cheap thing. It's not that you enroll in ISKCON, or you become a TP, or you become a GBC, or even you become a guru. It doesn't guarantee that you're a Vaishnava. In this room also, one devotee was speaking to Prabhupada, carrying on about some discussion, and in the course of the discussion, he said, he was going to say in the conversation to Prabhupada that we have a different view. He was quoting some non-devotees. So he said, of course, we are Vaishnavas, so, and Prabhupada put his finger up. He said, we are not Vaishnavas. We are trying to be Vaishnavas. Prabhupada didn't say you, Prabhupada said we. Imagine the humility. And in that same period of time, he said to Tamal, you are a Vaishnava. Bless me, that I will never forget Krishna. What higher accolade can anyone have? What higher recommendation? Cannot achieve it. So these two things, Prabhupada ordering him to see that I was not lost. I tried very hard to defeat that hope in my life. But Goswami has always been an encouragement and a guide for me. Even now I remember so many things he told me. We had a very, I mentioned, friendly relationship. In those years, sometimes Tamal would call me on, I remember on New Year's. He called, he said, Abhiram, in the tradition in our country is that we wish our family members on New Year's. He said, Happy New Year. So I used to visit him in his university years, and of course you probably already heard that he was a massively powerful intellect, quite unusual. Prabhupada had said that big birthmark on his forehead was because so much brain, so much intelligence was there. Oh, I'll also tell, before Prabhupada left, during that time, Srila Prabhupada would often ask us different things about what our opinion was, about his health, about traveling, about different things. He would ask me also. And then at the end of asking different people, he would always say, what does Tamal say? Ask Tamal. He always did that. So it's hard to express how significant these things are, but for me, you know, the case is closed. The jury has decided, there's nothing more to discuss. Right? You can all speculate, others can speculate, they can speak all rubbish, whatever they like. Spiritual authorities have spoken. Goswami Maharaj was a true Vaishnava. He was a loyal servant of Prabhupada. Prabhupada depended on him for so many things, including asking for his blessings, but to speak of every other guidance. So it's hard to imagine this. It's hard to accommodate this because we tend to push Prabhupada into this category, almost Vishnu Tattva. And that's due to our Mayavadi tendencies, which we tend to have. Therefore, Nirvisesu Sunyavadi Pastimes Satarnyam. That's his mission, no? But he's Jiva Tattva. He's the perfect Jiva Tattva. He's the example of the perfection of Jiva Tattva. Right? If Krishna came to guide us and showed his example, we could all say, how are you Krishna? What is the use of your example? We cannot do. But he sends Jiva Tattva to show that even he is not touched by Maya. So when he comes, he has, as Krishna has his associates, the devotees have their associates. Prabhupada had his associates, and we all know so many of their names. Just like Prabhupada, Garbhamuni, whatever we may say, they were the associates. And Tamal, Krishna, Goswami, and so many of those others, Prabhupada just pulled them out of Morning Star Ranch. You know the story, of course. They were just there waiting. Vishnu Chan used to live up in the tree, wearing a dress, playing a flute. And Tamal used to live down below the tree. And they had this amazing rasa where Vishnu Chan was always, Gopis, Gopis, Hare Krishna. And Tamal was always, come on, Vishnu Chan, be practical, get there. It had this wonderful, so those interacted know this rasa back and forth. But they were bonded together like brothers, two extremes. So, after, there's so many things to say, but after Prabhupada's disappearance, I spent some time with him in university there at Cambridge, Oxford. He was connected a little bit to both, but you all may know that he didn't work his way up to these universities like everyone else does. He was a junior student at, in Dallas, what's the SMU?
Southern Methodist.
Southern Methodist. And he was a freshman. No, what do you call well, he was doing a bachelor degree, no? And in that bachelor, and then you have to go to master's, and then maybe, if you're a super select, person, you can go into Cambridge or Oxford. Not 1 out of 1,000,000 will be able to go there. But he was invited without asking by the senior professor of theology when he read one of his articles from his bachelor degree.
Wow.
You know that, no? No, he was the invitation came to him. You come here, forget master's degree, forget everything else. You come and write your PhD. Not a normal brain. And of course, his goal in that writing was to illuminate, because there are so many philosophers in the world, and somebody has to clearly define their position vis-a-vis, in their position related to all other philosophers. So his objective was to place Prabhupada in the right position vis-a-vis all the acharyas and all the other great philosophers, which was a master undertaking. And when I visited him, we would go on long walks. We were always like that, friendly. And he would confide some of his concerns for the future of ISKCON. And he had a lot of concerns, how this would become a worldwide movement, because he knew that was what Prabhupada wanted. He had also, as you may know, tried to establish a Varnashram community in the Texas area. I was always keen on this point, and Prabhupada had directly ordered me. At one point he said, make Vaikuntha world, Chatur Varna Mayam Shustam Buddha Karma Vikara. So this always haunts me, this order. And so Tamal called me. The day Prabhupada left, I moved away from ISKCON. I told my wife things are going to get crazy. And you know I have a big mouth, and it's going to be bang, bang, bang with my godbrothers. So better we go peacefully. Now it's time, make our business, make our family, and just be peaceful. And in those days, we lived in a beautiful place in the tropics, in the Caribbean. And Tamal came 4 or 5 times. He came and stayed with us. When he wrote Jagannath Priya Nataka, I rented him a cottage there. He wrote most of it there. And then later I produced that play when it was played in Mayapur. We hired professional actors from Calcutta, professional musicians. Bhakti Churu Maharaj was the director. And of course he was very close with Bhakti Churu Maharaj also. These pictures are very appropriate. You see this smile. One thing about TKG, we had many names for him. TKG, Goswami Maharaj. Sometimes we wanted to agitate him. I would call him Turmoil Krishna. He enjoyed that though, he liked it. But why I say these photos are appropriate, because as we all know, he always had a laugh ready to come. Practically any moment, he could chuckle. He was a happy, happy person, because he was truly freed up from material attachments. He was competitive, no doubt about that. He was very competitive. And sometimes I think this was misunderstood. But he definitely pushed the standards very high. He pushed us. And he pushed the standards very high. Some people accused for him. That was a wrong thing. But on balance, we see how the standards are now drifting here and there. Of course, even that time, there were drifting of standards. But I think now we can appreciate it more, how important that is to live up to the standards that Prabhupada set. And TKG tried very hard to do that. He was very exemplary. So, I don't want to take up too much time. There are other devotees that really know so much about him. But he was, as I said, the second most important person in my life. Above my family, my mother, father, above everyone. After Prabhupada, TKG was the most important person to me. And in the last period, when he was coming to, he hadn't been to GBC meeting for a long time, for years, when he was in university. And the GBC was definitely adrift at that time without his leadership, because the unique thing about Goswami Maharaj is he was probably one of the last international society thinkers. He was one of the last world leaders before the sort of smaller parochial, thinking started to become more prominent. So I came, of course, when he tried to establish Varnashram, he called me, and I had, although started my business, I said, okay, I put it aside. We moved to Dallas. I negotiated a purchase of a farm nearby Dallas. It was 1,600 acres with 2 streams and thousands of mature pecan trees, and quite an amazing property. Of course, the GBC made sure that we lost that property in time. But Goswami Maharaj was obsessed with establishing Varnashram because Prabhupada wanted it. He was very concerned to establish the householder ashram properly. So there was criticism of him in earlier years that he was pushing the brahmachari book distribution, but it was very appropriate at that time. And then later he became very obsessed. Some of you may have been there or know of it. But I came and I tried to help. And then in the last period when he came to Mayapur after being in university, he just held kirtans, and I believe these were the first long kirtans, where devotees sat together for several hours and chanted the holy name. It was a unique thing. And he told me, he said, I want to set a standard for the future, that we should sit together and chant the holy name. And those kirtans were wonderful kirtans, very loving, happy spirit. And his room in the Mayapur, he had an apartment he was using, and had a room maybe half the size of this hall, maybe a little smaller, and it was packed full of devotees doing kirtan for 3 hours, I think, every night. And sometimes there were some young, basically children, 19, 20-year-old kids that were second generation, and they were coming, and I remembered him holding the kirtan, asking, where is this one, where is this one, where is this one? Until they came, he was sure. He was very personal, he was very caring for everyone. And that's something that we could remember today. We try to always keep in our front that, you know, institution is a car, it's an automobile. We appreciate it, we take care of it. It gets us where we want to go, but it's not the Sangha. It's an institution. It's wonderful. It's a gift from God. It's a gift from Guru. But it's a machine. Sangha is our personal loving, our personal caring. And Goswami Maharaj was very exemplary in this. We had all of those devotees who were with him so much. Shivaram Maharaj will tell you, he was practically also in the same role as Shivaram Maharaj. He was second most important person in his whole life was Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And so many other devotees were inspired and led by his very personal, loving relations. Sometimes he could be very annoying, but it was personal. It was never impersonal. You were never nothing. And institutions can tend to do that. I have felt that experience myself. Perhaps some of you have also. So find Sangha, care about other devotees. That's the lesson I learned from him. And that's what sustained me in Krishna consciousness, were personal relationships. So in the end, when those kirtans were nearing the end, I had to go back. I had some obligations in Delhi. So this was in Mayapur. So I was in the evening after all the devotees left, there were 4 or 5 of us who were close friends, including Shiva Maharaj and a few others who would stay after, and there was some milk prasad and some laughing and joking, which was always common with Goswami Maharaj. Some happy feelings were there. And so I was telling, I'm leaving tomorrow morning. I said, I'm leaving at 6. And he said to me, why so early? I said, because there's a bun at 9 o'clock, and I don't want to get caught, you know, in what do you call bun, protest, you know, where the people come out on the streets and block the traffic. And so then he said, oh, I'll leave early also then, I don't want to get stuck. So that's a very sad thing for me to tell, because I was connected to that. And of course he did leave early, and the driver apparently had not slept. And we all know that Krishna had a plan to take him. So I had returned to Delhi. I got the call that morning. I immediately raced back to Mayapur, and by the time I arrived, he was buried in the ground, and the devotees were in the temple speaking glories of Tamal Krishna Goswami. So I fell on top of his grave. I laid on top of his grave, and I cried more than I ever cried in my life. And I chastised him. Prabhupada ordered you to take care of me. And now you're laying in the soft earth, and you've left me here. The soft earth of Mayapur has embraced you. And you're traveling with Prabhupada, no doubt. And you've left me here. This is not right. I was complaining. No, I didn't have that relationship because he was like that. He was so personal. And he remains in my life in that way. And now my prayer in front of the Lord when I take darshan is a very simple prayer. Lord, you've taken all my dear ones away. Srila Prabhupada, Goswami Maharaj, so many others, Vishnu Jan Swami. Why did you leave me here? Please kill me immediately. I don't want to be here anymore. And if you have some reason that I'm here, then make me busy. I don't want to just be sitting around feeling sorry for myself. Make me busy in your service. Otherwise, take me away. There's no more sweetness in this world. Because that sweetness comes from the Sangha, the Vaishnavas. Right? Otherwise, why do we live? Why do we live? So seek out that Sangha, give that Sangha. This is, I think, what I can suggest as the lesson from Goswami Maharaj that he passed on from Srila Prabhupada. And so I'm hoping that it will pass on to all of us, and I'm trying to, give some clue on that. So I'll let others speak. Thank you for your tolerance.
Thank you, Abhinav Prabhu, for sharing your personal memories, especially as you mentioned how true Vaishnavas Maharaj and how even Prabhupada was seeking his blessings. Thank you, Maharaj. So now I'm going to request Panchabala Prabhu to come and lead the offering.
Tamal Krishna Maharaj ki. It seems that Abhirama Prabhu covered a lot of the territory. Even this morning we were hearing from Dinabandhu Prabhu about great saintly personalities. And what distinguishes a saintly person is one who's fully dedicated to preaching the mission of Krishna. And as others have spoken, I remember listening to one lecture, Prabhupada, or Tamal Krishna Maharaj was speaking, and then the curtains open. He said, "No, I'm not finished yet. I need." He was really enthusiastic about giving guidance and instruction, and he really wanted to spread this message of Krishna consciousness. And in the early days when Prabhupada first came back to India in particular, he definitely relied on Tamal Krishna Maharaj's abilities and intelligence. He felt that the foreign devotees were very naive and were going to be cheated at every step and had no ability to really function within India because India was a different kind of experience for them. But he really wanted that Mayapur land, and he sent Tamal Krishna Maharaj and others to secure that property. He was waiting. He said, maybe Dacoits attacked or this or that. Finally, he heard someone at the door after 1 week. Tamal Krishna Maharaj came in, offered obeisance, said, the land is yours. And Prabhupada was very happy. Also, taking sannyas, Prabhupada relied on Tamal Krishna Maharaj to be a GBC man. He didn't think the sannyasi should be the managing director. He felt the grihastas, the senior men, command the sannyasi should travel and preach. Tamal Krishna wanted to do that. He pioneered book distribution in many ways. Also the Radha Damodar. Prabhupada was always thinking books. And the competition did start. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was leading the charge. So just as great personalities always bring their associates, some or other, Tamal Krishna Maharaj and other early devotees, they assisted Srila Prabhupada in spreading Krishna consciousness. Even in the 90s, I had Tamal Krishna Maharaj on the back of my bike, brought him to my house to feed him khichdi. But then also at his home here, he would had Gopal. I think Gopal was cooking, and he always invite others to take lunch prasad. He's very meticulous about everything that shows his sharp intellect and also ability to understand how to move forward and help spread this worldwide Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada always thought very big, but also so he relied on his leaders, brought Brahmananda from Africa to help with the Bombay project. And many organizational activities were there. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj was in the center, performing wonderful service for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. So by remembering the servants of Srila Prabhupada and their relationship, how they serve with love, it gives us a lesson how we should work hard to dedicate ourselves to Prabhupada and Prabhupada's mission, and also have deep appreciation for those who sacrificed and gave guidance and spread this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. So we had some relationship, but not to the level of Abhiram. We had a close, very friendly relationship. And although I know one year I was traveling with Hridayananda Maharaj, and we were in Mayapur, 1983, I believe. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj would come often to Hridayananda Maharaj's room, and many lively conversations. At that time they were trying to, because it was difficult when Prabhupada left, and then the early 80s and mid 80s, as it was observed, all the leaders were trying to figure out what's the best way to move forward and spread the society in the way that's intended by our founder Acharya. So we're still pioneering, we're young, we're making a lot of mistakes here and there. But I feel the most important thing we can do is take shelter of Prabhupada's books, hear Prabhupada's lectures, and work really hard to try to help Prabhupada for what he started, keeping Krishna Balaram Mandir, keeping Mayapur project and Bombay project and all the projects. We have to work on ourselves. If we ourselves are enthusiastic with gratitude and appreciation of Prabhupada, then Krishna will give us intelligence how we can help others as well. Tamal Krishna Maharaj ki jai.
Thank you, Panchagara Prabhu. So now I would like to request Dinabandhu Prabhu, you can share your feelings.
Hare Krishna. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Panchakalpa Trubhyascha Svabandhu Vaivaccha So we're gathered here on this very first day of the bright half of the month of Falguni, that month that our dear Lord Chaitanya appeared in this world. And on this first day of the bright half of Falguni, as we heard this morning, many wonderful Vaishnavas like Jagannath Das Babaji, Vasikanand, Prabhu, all left on this day, as did our very dear Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. And fortunately, somehow, I always had very wonderful relationship with Maharaj. And I was running a temple in the northwest corner of the United States in Portland, Oregon. And Vishnujan and Tamal used to love to come there. It was one of the few temples where he was welcome in America, because many times he would come to a temple and all of a sudden next morning the bus would leave, and next morning and all of a sudden the temple presidency and some of his brahmacharis were gone. So he became a little unpopular. But I don't remember that he ever took anyone from the temple, because we had, Portland Temple was like a nice family, as Abhiram Prabhu was speaking so nicely. This is what we have to create for ISKCON. So, but those people who were just on the edge, they're coming to the temple, but they weren't sure whether they should join or not. He took a lot of those, and I was very happy that they somehow became Vaishnavas. I was happy. I was just happy to get the nice, Portland's way up in the northwest corner of the United States. We didn't get much sun. So Tamal came and Vishnujan came, and we would hear their lectures, and especially Vishnujan's kirtans. I was very happy. So they loved to come to my temple, so they came quite often in Portland. In fact, we did a big, because somehow or other there's one festival that comes in the wintertime. It's called Posha Abhishek. And because that particular month in Hindi is called Posha. So we misinterpret it as Pushpa. So we think it's Pushpa Abhishek. But in America, it's January is no fun to have flower Abhishek. It's very cold. But somehow we speculated. So we used to have, so I wrote a letter to Prabhupada saying that we should have it in June, because in June there's so many flowers. Portland is known as the Rose City. And Prabhupada said, yes, you may celebrate in Rose. So Vishnujan would come and Tamal Krishna would come, and we'd make a big, we call it chicken wire. I don't know what it is in Hindi anyway. House, and have everybody come, and we would, the night before, we would raid every rose garden in the city around our temple, and we just have all the people come and put roses, and Vishnujan would come and Tamal would come. We had this wonderful flower festival in Portland every year in the springtime, when there was lots of flowers and the weather was agreeable. So we were always very, very. He was always very, very kind to me. He showed lots of affection to me. I remember, as Abhiram was talking about, that he started those kirtans, and because, like, for a while he was sort of out of the scene, as Abhiram was pointing out, that he just was in his university thing. So when he saw me, I heard about the kirtan, so I came upstairs, and Tamal, he just embraced me so warmly. And you said, I can feel you. I can touch you. I'm so happy you're here. You lead kirtan. He asked me to lead, so I just did one of the nice Raj kirtans, and I watched. I looked over, and then Goswami Maharaj was just relishing this nice Raj kirtan. So we always had a very, very loving relationship, especially here when I became president of this temple, and he got that house on the corner there, and he'd always invite me for his feast there. And he was, as Abhiram pointed out, he was very, very particular, so he knew everything. And when you cook for Tamal, you had to be very expert, He knew everything out. This goes first, then you take this second, then you take this third. As he said, he was very, very particular. So he'd always invite me over. It was so nice. And I'm probably one of the only people who ever defeated Tamal. Because there was one friend of the temple. Now he's a big billionaire. He's in the Forbes list of billionaires. Robert Friedman is in Singapore. He has a big company called Trident Industries. Trident, Lord Shiva. So it's called Trident Industries. Anyway, he was coming to the temple. His name was Sitaram at that time. He was in like someone else here in Vrindavan. And he liked to worship Sitaram, and he asked Prabhupada, he met Prabhupada here in Vrindavan. Prabhupada said, that's nice, he worships Sitaram. Told me he didn't discourage him in any way. So used to come to the temple, and every Sunday we would just have these rip-roaring kirtans. And me and Sitaram would just dance and dance and dance. And then he went off to India. And then he came back, he brought me some Ganga water. I kept that bottle for so long. I think one time when we moved, my wife finally threw it out. I kept that bottle of Ganga water. Anyway, we had this sweet relationship like this. And he was a poor fellow. So one day he bought this tambura, this huge tambura, about this big, with 5 strings. All tamburas have 4, you know. This one had 5 strings. And it was from Ricky Ram, the place where George Harrison bought his instruments, his Indian instruments. In Connaught Place, there's a place called Ricky Ram. So it was a real high quality tambura, and I was very attached to it. We had this very sweet relationship. Somehow, somebody came up to my office and said that they're planning to run off with the tambura. They got it on the bus. I said, oh no, now what to do? And we had this devotee in Portland, and people would, and I said, there's nobody like this guy in the movement. That's now we got this space case in New York, we got this space case in Boston, we got this one in Dallas. Everybody had some space case that they talk about. They stay in Portland Temple for a couple of days at Dinamanda. There's nobody like this guy in the movement. Even Rita Ananda said he cruises at 1,000,000 miles. So I knew he wouldn't understand the vibes. It wouldn't affect him. So I said, hey, Bhavananda, go down and get the tambura out of the bus. And he walked down, he couldn't figure out, there was heavy vibes, you know, everybody watched him, he picked up that tambura, but he was at 1,000,000 miles, so all those vibes didn't affect him. He brought it up to my office, you know, and I told somebody to go lock it in a closet somewhere. Then Tamal came, and he had Vishnu John's tambura. This is a teeny little one. I mean, this one had ivory. This one was just plastic, and it was painted all, you know, artificially painted, and real tinny sound. You know, and Tamal was saying, no, if you keep that tambura, people only in Portland will see it. But if it goes with Mr. John, it will go all over the States, and people will see that harmonium. You see that tambura. But I knew this was because my relationship with Sitaram was such I couldn't think of. He donated it to the temple. His donation to the temple wasn't mine to give, you know. And I couldn't think of destroying my relationship with Sitaram. We were so close, you know, by giving this tambura away. And I just kept saying, you know, I can't do it. It's not mine. It was donated to the temple by a very dear donor. It's very special. I can't do it. I can't do it. Somehow or other, I defeated Tamal. I didn't sleep that night, but I defeated Tamal. Usually, for this program, I have a poem that I wrote about Tamal, but I was so busy preparing for class today. Somebody wanted this nice, wonderful verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita and Jagannath Das Babaji and Rasikanand that I didn't print it out, but I can just remember some things from it, because you're going to see it in a few minutes, in a little while. Because this Tamal tree in the temple room is very strange. You see that most of the trees, if you walk around MBT, like all the champakas, all their leaves are gone. They left in the winter. But this springtime, that's when the Tamal tree loses all its leaves. And you're going to see the fresh new leaves come. And then you'll see flowers come. So I wrote a whole poem about how the same way that this Tamal tree has become very dear, although he was just a tree, he's become very dear to all the devotees, and Prabhupada used to sit under it. The same way, Tamal Krishna, he was living in a tree, as Abhiram was talking about Morning Star Ranch, where Prabhupada brought him, and he became famous amongst all the devotees. And just like the Tamal tree is very hard wood, but the leaves are very, very soft. So Goswami Maharaj, he was hard like a thunderbolt, as we heard. But he was also had a very, very, very soft side. The leaves, when it's Tamal tree, when the new leaves come, you touch them. Because Krishna's touch is always described as pala. Pala means freshly grown leaf, especially this Tamal leaf. It's just like that. And then you'll see these flowers come. It's like Goswami Maharaj, he studied Prabhupada's books, and he was able to express that his lectures were just so wonderful. Like, it was just so, like the fragrance of the, when you'll see now in a couple of weeks, Tamal tree, the flowers, thousands of flowers will come, and the whole temple room will be perfumed with his flowers. So Goswami Maharaj perfumed the whole world with his lecture about Krishna consciousness. And many of you don't know, this is not the original Tamal tree. Somehow or other, one day he dried up and left, and fell over. If you look in that marble thing, you'll see there's a piece of marble missing where he fell over and crashed. In the same way, our Tamal Krishna, we could never imagine him leaving, but one day we're just left with our memories of Goswami Maharaj. Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj ki jai! Srila Prabhupada ki jai!
Thank you, Prabhu. So now I would like to request Devi Shakti Mataji, please come forward and give the talk.
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharya Namaste Saraswati Vadi Paschati Deshakarya. So, Maharaj's Prabhus, I simply want to express my heartfelt gratitude and appreciation to Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami. He actually saved my life, and not just my life, many other devotees' lives, because of his intense love for Srila Prabhupada. He wanted to keep the entire family of Prabhupada's disciples and Prabhupada's followers together. And he pinpointed when there was a problem, and he went out of his way to solve those problems. So I have an example in my own life. At the very end, Prabhupada told Tamal Krishna Maharaj that he should look after me after Prabhupada left, and he made sure to do that. So even before Prabhupada disappeared and entered Samadhi, already there was upheavals, difficulties, everyone being so young, we didn't know how we were going to make the transition with Prabhupada's disappearance. And the solution I found was I just disappeared. I left. I ran away. And my mother I ran to Barsana and was serving in the Sriji temple there, very happy. No politics, nothing, just serving. They taught me how to make everything there for Radharani and Krishna, and I was just learning all the arts there. And then my mother came, and she wanted to come see Srila Prabhupada. And in order to come see Srila Prabhupada, you had to go see Tamal Krishna Maharaj because he was the guard. And he wouldn't let anyone in to see Prabhupada. So Prabhupada wasn't seeing any devotees at that time. So he apologized and said, I'm sorry, but you won't be able to see Prabhupada. And my mother started, this happened, that happened, this is why she's going right into. So he listened to everything, and it all went in. He understood. So later, after my mother left, I came back to see Srila Prabhupada, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, well, you have to come back here now and stay. I said, well, I'm very happy where I am. Why should I come back? And he was trying, well, this, and trying to logically figure out, well, you have to come back. You belong here, and Prabhupada wants you here. How you can, Prabhupada's sick. I said, well, I'm sorry, I'll wait till, things are quieter. So finally he said, if I have Srila Prabhupada tell you to come back, will you come back? I said, well, okay, if Prabhupada tells me to come back, of course I'll come back. So he immediately arranged, he said, you stay here tonight, tomorrow morning, Prabhupada's going to see you. And Prabhupada was, what to speak of not seeing women, no women whatsoever, but he wasn't even seeing only his servants. And he would come out every morning for the public darshan under the Tamal tree. So the next morning, I was at Bhagavaji's, comes over and makes sure I'm still here. Says, okay, come to Prabhupada's house now. Prabhupada's going to see you. Had me sit in his office. He runs up to tell Prabhupada that I come. While he runs up, I think, oh no, if Prabhupada tells me to stay, then I have to stay. So I got up and I ran out the door. And he comes down, he sees I'm not there anymore, and he comes running after me. He said, where are you going? Where are you going? We just hit where Prabhupada's samadhi is. I'm running, he's running after me. He says, no, Prabhupada, he wants to see you right now. So I stopped in my tracks because Prabhupada wants to see you, what can you do? So I came back with him. I showed him I had brought some gifts. Went up to see Prabhupada. Prabhupada gave me my last instructions that I've been following to this very day for staying here and serving and everything. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj was so kind. He suggested to Prabhupada, because Tamal Krishna Maharaj had convinced Prabhupada. Prabhupada felt that he was rotting here in Vrindavan. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj encouraged Prabhupada that all the devotees around the world are waiting they can't live without you. Why not make a last trip? And Prabhupada then decided he would make that trip, and they had a whole itinerary. First, Europe, see all the devotees at London, then New York, then go to Gita Nagari, then New Vrindavan, Los Angeles, Hawaii. Prabhupada was just dreaming of all the places and all the devotees he wanted to see, and then he would rest in Hawaii. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj told Prabhupada then, when we were upstairs, he said, Prabhupada, she might have to leave the country now, so why doesn't she come with us? And Prabhupada said, oh, that's a wonderful idea. When I'm feeling better, she can cook for me again. So then I became part of the group that was going to go with Prabhupada. I flew, waiting, I was getting Prabhupada's rooms already in New York, because there were enough devotees going to London. And long story short, we all know Prabhupada never made it past London. He had to come back here, and he left his body here. He entered Samadhi, and we're all worshiping him here. So I immediately came back, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was so kind, so beyond the word personal. It was more than that. Because Prabhupada had told him to take care of me, he made sure that I was always here, engaged in Prabhupada's service. He gave me Prabhupada's key that Prabhupada always wore on his Brahmin thread. And with that key, we were able to open up Prabhupada's Elmira. And the things that you see in Prabhupada's house now are the things that we took out of Prabhupada's Elmira. We put everything there in the display cabinets for the devotees to see. And then the attack in Mayapur was there, so Bhavananda brought all of the things from Mayapur for safekeeping, and all those things are here in Prabhupada's house. And because of his kindness, to this day, I can never even dream of leaving Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. So really, it's the mercy of the devotees that we get to approach Srila Prabhupada, and I owe him my life. I have all gratitude for him, and anyone who has come in contact with him knows how much he helped hundreds and thousands of devotees around the world to remain ever attached to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Tamal Krishna Maharaj.
Thank you, Ravi Siddhi Mataji, for your wonderful presentation. So now I would like to request His Holiness Radhe Shyamanand Swami Maharaj. आप हिंदी में के महाराज के बारे में बोलते हैं।
हरे कृष्णा। तो आज हम परम पूज्य तमाल कृष्ण गोस्वामी महाराज का 22वां तिरोभाव दिवस मना रहे हैं। परम पूज्य तमाल कृष्ण गोस्वामी महाराज, जैसे मैंने सुना है, प्रभुपाद जी के राइट हैंड थे। जब भी कोई समस्या होती थी तुरंत प्रभुपाद जी जो है तमाल कृष्ण महाराज को याद करते थे, कॉल तमाल कृष्ण। और महाराज भी जो है बड़े ही परफेक्ट थे, हर चीज के टाइम पे पंचुअल, सेवाओं के पंचुअल, हर चीज में उनकी बड़ी ही क्या नाम है, हर चीज में बड़ा बारीकी से जो है वो गौर करते थे हर चीज। तो एक बार जो है वो मैंने सुना है कि वो शायद विदेश में स्वीडन में गए थे वो, तो जब भगवान के दर्शन कर रहे थे तो उन्होंने देखा कि राधा कृष्ण को बहुत सुंदर ढंग से सजाया गया है। और प्रभुपाद जी उसको देख करके तमाल कृष्ण महाराज उसको देख करके बहुत प्रसन्न हुए। और महाराज ने पूछा ये आज ड्रेसिंग किसने किया है? तो उसमें से 2 माता जी निकल करके आएंगे, महाराज जी हमने की है। तो उन्होंने जो है बहुत प्रसन्न हुए, उन्होंने आशीर्वाद दिया, ये जो ड्रेस की है ना, जब तुम गौलोक में जाएंगे तो भगवान तुम्हें इसी ड्रेस में दर्शन देंगे। और एक बार की बात थी, महाराज फिजी गए थे, तो वहां जो है वर्षा नहीं हो रही थी, शायद फिजी में वर्षा नहीं हो रही थी, बहुत लंबे समय तक वर्षा नहीं हुई। तो जब महाराज वहां पहुंचे तो वहां के जो भक्तगण थे उन्होंने कहा कि देखो महाराज यहाँ वर्षा नहीं हो रही है, कई साल हो गए, सब अकाल से बहुत परेशान हैं। तो महाराज ने कहा कि देखो मैं तो इतना शुद्ध भक्त नहीं हूं, लेकिन मैंने देखा था कि एक बार हैदराबाद में वर्षा नहीं हुई थी और उन्होंने वहां जो है 72 घंटे कीर्तन किया था, और जैसे कीर्तन किया तो खूब दमादम करके वर्षा हुई। तो इसलिए ऐसा करते हैं, जो प्रभुपाद जी ने किया उसी को हम करते, हम भी यहाँ 72 घंटे का कीर्तन करते हैं। और महाराज जी ने कुछ शिष्यों के साथ में लेकर के 72 घंटे का कीर्तन किया, और जैसे ही लास्ट दिन हुआ इतने काले पीले बादल आ रहे, इतने धम धमा करके वर्षा हुई कि चारों तरफ पानी पानी हो गया। महाराज की बहुत सारी महाराज की मैंने, क्योंकि कल जब जैसे ही परसों उन्होंने कहा था राधा चरण प्रभु ने कि आप आइए, तो मुझे लगा मुझे कुछ ढूंढना पड़ेगा, तो इसलिए मैं पूरा सुनता था क्या बोलो, क्योंकि मेरे को तो कोई ज़्यादा उनका रियलाइजेशन नहीं था। लेकिन जिस समय वो शरीर छोड़े थे मैं मायापुर में था उस समय। तीसरी बात जो है, चूँकि जैसे अभी पंचकोट प्रभु बता रहे थे कि जो मायापुर का जो जमीन था बहुत सारी समस्या आ रही थी, और प्रभुपाद जी चाहते कि जैसे भी हो हमारे हाथ में होनी चाहिए, उसका रजिस्ट्री होना चाहिए। तो कुछ समय पहले जो है तमाल कृष्ण महाराज जी ने, उनकी इच्छा थी कि जब मेरा शरीर छूटता है तो वृंदावन में शरीर छूटना चाहिए, और यदि वृंदावन में समाधि होना चाहिए। और यदि मायापुर में है, कहीं भी है, तब तो वृंदावन में समाधि होना चाहिए। यदि मायापुर में है तो फिर मायापुर में मेरी समाधि होनी चाहिए। तो कालांतर में हमने सुना है कि महाराज जी का जो शरीर है, जैसे समाधि दी जाती है तो प्राय बिठाया जाता है, लेकिन महाराज जी सो रहे हैं, ऐसा ही है ना। अच्छा, तो हुआ ये था कि जब रजिस्ट्री हुई थी, तो रजिस्ट्री के समय जब प्रभुपाद जी बहुत चिंतित थे कैसे कैसे रजिस्ट्री होना चाहिए, तो तमाल कृष्ण महाराज जो है रात के समय, रात के 11-12 बजे लेकर के और रजिस्ट्री लेकर के आए, और तुरंत महाराज चाहते थे कि प्रभुपाद जी इसको देख करके बहुत प्रसन्नता हो, और जैसे ही गए तो उन्होंने रजिस्ट्री दिखाई तो प्रभुपाद जी बहुत प्रसन्न हो गए, और उन्होंने कहा कि जाओ, नाउ यू टेक रेस्ट, अब तुम जा करके सो जाओ, अब ये तुम्हारी जमीन है। तो इसलिए परम पूज्य तमाल कृष्ण महाराज जो है, वो उनकी जो समाधि है, समाधि में प्रभुपाद जी के उन वाक्यों को फॉलो करते हुए प्रभुपाद जी वहां सो रहे हैं। परम पूज्य तमाल कृष्ण महाराज की ये बताए थे शायद परम पूज्य लोकनाथ स्वामी महाराज बोल रहे थे, हमारे गुरु महाराज बोल रहे थे कि प्रभुपाद जी ने कहा कि नाउ टेक रेस्ट, अब ये तुम्हारा जमीन है, इसलिए अब तुम सोइए। तो जो है महाराज जो है उस स्थान पर भी सो रहे हैं, साथ साथ में प्रभुपाद जी का दंत भी है उनके साथ में, दंत समाधि। और एक बार जो है हमने सुना था कि महाराज जी गोवर्धन में थे, तो उनको जो है जीबीसी मीटिंग में जाना था, तो उस समय परम पूज्य गौर नारायण महाराज उनकी सेवा में थे, उस समय प्रभु थे। तो उनको जो है मीटिंग से 2-3 दिन पहले मायापुर जाना था, सारी व्यवस्था देखनी थी, तो कमरा वगैरह सब साफ करना था, क्योंकि महाराज बहुत हर चीज को बड़ी बारीकी से जो है गौर करते थे, यहाँ वहाँ कहीं भी जरा सा भी डस्ट नहीं देखना चाहते थे। तो महाराज जी जा करके गौर नारायण महाराज और उनसे कहा कि देखो मैं मायापुर जा रहा हूँ महाराज जी, आप मुझे आदि परमिशन दो, और दूसरा मैंने जो भी सेवा में कुछ गलती हुई हो तो प्लीज आप जो है मुझे क्षमा कर देने का। तो उस समय तमाल कृष्ण महाराज ने, परम पूज्य तमाल कृष्ण महाराज ने गौर नारायण महाराज को कहा, प्रभु को कहा था कि वास्तव में माफी तो मुझे मांगनी चाहिए, क्योंकि आप लोग इतना डेडिकेट होकर के सेवा में लगे हुए हैं, वास्तव में आप लोगों का कोई अपराध नहीं हुआ है। कभी कभी मैं अपने शिष्यों के प्रति डांट फटकार करके मैं अपराध कर देता हूँ, लेकिन तुम जानते हो मैं क्यों डांटता हूँ? मैं इसलिए जानता हूँ क्योंकि मैं चाहता हूँ मेरे सारे शिष्य जब गोलोक में जाए हैं तो वहां पर जो है भगवान की सेवा के लिए उनको इंतजार नहीं करना पड़े, तुरंत जा करके भगवान की सेवा में लग जाए। इसलिए मेरी इच्छा है कि सभी शिष्य परफेक्ट होकर के यहीं से जो है और भगवान के धाम जाए। तो बहुत सारी जो है क्या नाम है उनकी इस प्रकार के वो हैं। तो आज हम जो है उनके चरणों में प्रार्थना करते हुए, उनकी कृपा की याचना करते हुए हम यही उनके चरणों में प्रार्थना करेंगे कि ये जो डेडिकेशन है गुरु के प्रति, सेवा के प्रति, उनके एक एक वाक्य को फॉलो करते थे और बड़ी बारीकी से वो जो है ध्यान रखते थे। तो ये जो समर्पण है गुरु के प्रति और भगवान के प्रति, यदि उनका आशीर्वाद हो, उनकी कृपा की एक बिंदु यदि हमें मिलती है तो हमारा जीवन धन्य धन्य हो जाएगा। यही हम इस वचन बोलने को समाप्त करते हैं। हरे कृष्ण।
बहुत धन्यवाद महाराज जी। So now I would like to request Gokulanand Prabhu, please come up on the stage and give your offering.
So this is a very glorious opportunity to understand the glories of Tamal Krishna Maharaj, one of the most effective and empowered leaders in our movement, and in the same manner to understand Prabhupada's greatness. Prabhupada Prabhupada, he was so humble and pure that he never claimed any special merit. He said, I had only one merit, is that I took to heart every word of my Guru Maharaj. I had unlimited faith in every word I took to heart, and I tried to fulfill his desires. So the same thing applies for Prabhupada's disciples. And so many took to heart Prabhupada's mood and vision to give Krishna to the whole world. And one amazing example of that is the life of Tamal Krishna Maharaj. So I'll just give a very brief history of the amazing services he was able to render to Prabhupada's mission. Of course, we've all heard how he had extraordinary leadership abilities. Prabhupada could see that. And it's interesting that Prabhupada personally took him from Morningstar Ranch and brought him to San Francisco Temple and gained the association of Jayananda and Jamuna, Guru Das, and other wonderful stalwart followers of Prabhupada. But he took that association as a great, great blessing and a source of inspiration and strength. And Tamal Krishna very quickly showed his leadership qualities. He took charge from San Francisco. He sent down to LA, which was a small center at that time, 1968. And he took charge of the daily Harinam. And of course, the leader of that Harinam was Bishop John Swami, who was a lover of the holy name. He could go on for 6-8 hours a day, 5-6 days a week. It was amazing. He loved the holy name. He wanted to give the holy name to everyone. But Tamal Krishna was the organizer. He organized the whole Sankirtan push of bringing books, and Bhakti Godhead was the main preaching publication. And so he had a whole system of quotas. So many 100+ Bhakti Godheads were being distributed every day in downtown Los Angeles. And he pushed that to its highest degree. And then finally, Prabhupada asked him to go help the devotees who had recently set up a temple in London, England. And so Tamal Krishna was sent to London, I think it's like the summer of '69, just before Prabhupada himself came, in October, November, December '69. So Tamal Krishna was heading up the Sankirtan there in London, in a very efficient, wonderful, organizational system. He had a really very, very powerful preaching force. He could empower others. He could bring out the best in everyone to make them achieve more and more towards, giving their best to the Sankirtan. So he was an amazing leader in that way. And then Prabhupada brought him to India in that first wave of 50 or more Western disciples that went with Prabhupada. And finally, a short time after, I think 6 months after he arrived in India, he was given sannyas. But he had a first-class wife, Magadi, an ideal couple, both of them dedicated, powerful preachers. But somehow it was time for him to take sannyas. And a little while later, Prabhupada made him the first GBC in India. That was a big challenge. There was a lot of big problems that were not easily resolved, like that whole mess of intrigue and Juhu. But then Tamal Krishna was able to persevere along with Giri Swami and he achieved success for Prabhupada's mission. Anyway, so we carried on like that in India for 2 or 3 years, and finally he asked Prabhupada's permission to come to the West, where he set up his longtime friend, his lifelong friend, Vishnu John Swami, had already started a traveling Sankirtan, the Radha Damodar party, with a few bands, and so Tamal Krishna joined them, and they become a powerful duo. Especially Tamal Krishna was a very powerful preacher and communicator. When he spoke to someone, instant effect. That person had a change of heart because of Tamal Krishna's complete conviction. He was 150% convinced about the urgency of Krishna consciousness. He was able to make hundreds of devotees along with Vishnu Jana. Vishnu Jana was like an apostle of love. He had so much love for Prabhupada and the holy name, it was contagious around Vishnu Jana. You know, anyone who spent time with him. I had the good fortune of traveling with him for a couple of weeks, still as a young boy, anyway, that was such a beautiful experience at the association with Sri John. But Tamal Krishna was there as the deliverer of the transcendental message. He really had a potency of giving because he was convinced. Prabhupada had told him and others, I am convinced, you also become convinced like I am. That conviction, utsahan, that very enthusiastic determination to give Krishna to everyone. So Tamal Krishna was like so empowered in that way. And he had natural, he was a born leader. He knew exactly how to bring out the best in everyone. And then through those years, 74 and 75, as the Radha Damar party expanded, I finally met Krishna Maharaj many years later. The opening of Prabhupada's house in Rome in September 79, I spent about an hour with him in his motorhome. And he had a beautiful, big, expensive motorhome. He was traveling all around USA. And I was struck by his, he was like so dead, serious. I remember the theme of our discussion was that his priority, he said, my party, we are doing book distribution, preaching, but our first priority, the chanting of 16 rounds, and I really encourage my whole party to chant all their rounds before breakfast, or at least before noon. So we had that really strong southern effect, that that's the heart of our process. Anyway, and later, Krishna took up so many wonderful services. Radha Damar are a huge success. I was there with the library from Chicago in 1975. Prabhupada was there, 200-300 devotees came. And Tamal Krishna brought 9 bhaktas in Krishna Jana and made over the previous year and a half, and made 90 bhaktas, all ready to become initiated. And there was a very famous historic event that 90 bhaktas were lined up in the Chicago Temple Room under the and Prabhupada was like the commander-in-chief, he was so majestic, He had saved all these good souls, 90 bhaktas. Krishna was the facilitator, he was the one who made them connect with Prabhupada. It was a very historic, amazing thing to see all the good souls get Prabhupada shelter with them. And then, there's so many things that he was able to accomplish because of his unflinching faith in Srila Prabhupada's words and Prabhupada's mission. He was like a dynamo. He could exude that enthusiasm and conviction, and it was really contagious with him, around him. And then, so he finally was given charge of the Dallas temple. He made a wonderful garden restaurant called Chandanaji, which won many awards as one of America's most popular and highest quality vegetarian restaurants. And many of those people, regular customers, said, well, you come here, the food is extraordinary, but we mostly come to soak up all the beautiful, peaceful energy that we find here. It's unique. You can't find this beautiful energy anywhere else. So Tamal Krishna somehow created that Vaikuntha environment there in the Dallas restaurant. And so he had that magic touch to fulfill Prabhupada's desire and to make wonderful things happen again and again and again. And eventually also he said, well, Prabhupada had asked him to go to China. That's a whole saga in itself. But first I think he started in the Philippines. I know a few of his nice disciples in Vancouver that came. He was preaching in the Philippines. And then eventually made his way all the way to China. I think he had to go in disguise at first with some Chinese devotees. But he did amazing, powerful preaching there. Like an ocean of service he did was tremendous. It showed Prabhupada's mission. So ISKCON is eternally indebted to Tamal Krishna's stalwart dedication to fulfilling Prabhupada's vision of giving Krishna to the whole world. And we can derive so much inspiration from his life's wonderful example. He's one of the great saints that Prabhupada gave to the world. We need such perfect examples because the sorry world is so misled, and they're looking for heroes all in the wrong places. So we have these great saints that Prabhupada gives to the world, and let us take advantage of such wonderful occasions to appreciate their amazing contributions, not just in the past and the present, but the legacy will go on and on. So that is our good fortune to have that example. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Ki Jai, Hare Krishna, Shri Prabhupada, Ki Jai.
Thank you. So now it's time to hear from the disciples of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami. So as all of us know, one of the most favorite and the most important disciple of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami is none other than our Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Gaurav Narayan Swami Maharaj. So I request Guru Maharaj to please come upon and offer his glorification.
Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Prasade Nirvishesha Sunyamade Sasatyade Sattva. Today, on this auspicious occasion of the holy disappearance of our beloved Sri Gurudev, I would like to remember his mercy, especially on me, that he has shown course, now we all have from different devotees, so Prabhupada disciples. How Sri Gurudev was very dear to Sri Prabhupada and his right hand man, and he had done lots of service for the society. But I would like to speak on the personal dealings of Sri Gurudev with me. So, when I joined here in Vrindavan in 81, so that time I was given the service of cleaning Sri Prabhupada's room. And Devi Shaktimati was in charge of Sri Prabhupada's quarters there. She was engaged me in cleaning Sri Prabhupada's room, the cabinets, upstairs. But that time, in Prabhupada's library, in his quarters, so I wanted to read Srila Prabhupada's books. Because when I was serving in Prabhupada's quarters, that time Prabhupada's tape was going on, his lecture was going on, so I was hearing his lectures. Then I wanted to read Srila Prabhupada's books, and Devi Shaktimataji mercifully allowed me to take some books from the library to study. And there I saw this that famous video of Srila Gurudev, Gods, Demigods and Incarnations, which has changed the life of many people. And by seeing that video, I became very much attracted to Srila Gurudev. And then I decided to take initiation from him. And later on, during the post-Gaur Punya festival, so Gurudev had come here, like all other gurus have come, and I also heard his lecture, Bhagavatam class, and again my inclination towards him became more confirmed, and I had also approached him for accepting him as my spiritual master. But that time there was zonal Acharya system, and many devotees became victim of that. So I was also a victim. But later on, the visit changed that rule, so I was free to again approach Srila Gurudev to take initiation, and he happily agreed. So during that time, I had gone to serve Srila Gurudev in Mayapur, and I had seen Srila Gurudev was wearing one tabiz in his neck. And I had the conception that in India, generally, those who wear tabiz, they are wearing for some protection from devil elements. So I was thinking that Sri Gurudev was a devotee of Krishna, and Krishna was his protector. Then why he was wearing this tabiz? That was, I was thinking, and I haven't told anyone about this. So then one day Sri Gurudev, every day he was going to take bath in the Ganges. So he took me with him. I was carrying his clothes, and he took his bath. Then we came back from the Ganges, and I was sitting outside of his room in the reception area in my room. Then Gurudev went inside. He changed his clothes, put on his pillar, and then he called me from inside. So when I went inside, then I said, call Sachideva. Sachideva was serving him at that university. So I came back and called Sachideva. We both went inside. Then, to my surprise, Gurudev held his tablets in his hand, and he showed us and asked us, do you know what is inside these tablets? Then both of us said that we don't know what is inside. Then he himself opened that tablets. And then he showed us, and we saw something white inside that tablets. Then he asked us, what is this inside? Then we said, no, we cannot say what is inside, something white is there. So then he told us that this is Srila Prabhupada's truth. And then he told us this thing, then closed the tablets, and then he told both of us, now you can go. And we were shocked, both of us were shocked. So when we came out, then I told Sachideva Prabhu that Sachideva Prabhu, I had a doubt in my mind that what was inside the tablets, why Gurudev was wearing that tablets. But I have never told anyone. Then how did Gurudev know my heart? And what I was thinking, that he clarified this. Then Sachideva Prabhu told me, Prabhuji, I was also thinking like that. I had also a doubt in my heart, and I had also not told anyone. So then both of us understood that actually Gurudev knows the hearts of the disciples. Paramatma works through the Guru. So then we thought that both of us had doubt. Now Gurudev called both of us and clarified our doubt without even asking him anything. So that was another revelation of me, that how Gurudev would understand the mind of the disciples. And I have also seen in many occasions, Gurudev would, what we would be thinking, he would just tell us. It's the same thing. So, another time, that was in Vrindavan, when I was serving him. So, and we all know that Gurudev would chastise if something will be wrong in serving prasadam. And many devotees, they are afraid of serving Srila Gurudev. So I was serving prasadam, and one day I made some mistake. And then Gurudev, he chastised me in front of everyone, because he used to call his godbrothers for prasadam every day. So he chastised me. So then after prasad, Gurudev went back to his room. And then after Gurudev and everyone takes prasad, and the servants, those who were serving there, used to take prasad. So that day my stomach was upset, I did not take prasad. And Gurudev, in his room, after chastising me, he went back to his room. He was supposed to take a rest, but he did not take a rest. He asked another devotee to know that whether I did take prasad or not. So the devotees told him that I have not taken prasad. Then Gurudev immediately called me. And then he asked me, did you take prasad? I said, no, I have not taken prasad. Because he was thinking that because he chastised me, because of that I have not taken prasad. So he wanted to clarify that. So then when I said no, then he asked me, why did you not take prasad? Then I told him my stomach was upset, that's why I did not take. Then he said, okay, then we can do it. So then another time, after serving for 1 month years, Gurudev, then Gurudev was supposed to go to Mayapur before Lord Punya festival. And I had to go in advance to prepare Gurudev's room in Mayapur. Again, Radha Samananda Maharaj was telling that story, but I will tell you in detail. So, before going, I had to go by train to Mayapur. And Gurudev was supposed to go by flight. So before going to the train station, when I went to Gurudev's room, I offered my obeisances. And then I told Gurudev that Gurudev, during my service, I have committed many mistakes. And I have committed many offenses. So please forgive me. Then Sri Gurudev told that you cannot make any offense. But by chastising you, if I have committed any offense, please forgive me. So when Gurudev told this, and then tears came down from my eyes. Because Gurudev was so humble. There was no need to beg forgiveness from the disciple. But he was so humble, he was telling that if I have committed any offense, please forgive me. So that's I became very moved and tears came down from my eyes. And then Gurudev clarified. He said, that you know why am I chastising you? I want to sharpen your intelligence. So when you go back to Krishna, you can serve Radha and Krishna perfectly. So that was the mood of Srila Gurudev. And then I left for my room. Another time in Vrindavan, Gurudev was taking that time some milk and some pot rice at night. So then he asked me to bring his prasad. And Satyavama was inside, so I asked Satyavama for Gurudev's prasad. So he told me there is Gurudev's milk and pot rice. So I took and put in front of Sri Gurudev. Generally he does not ask this thing, but that day he asked that, did you offer this? Then I told Sri Gurudev, I have not offered. And Satyavama gave me this to give to you. Then he told me, go and ask Satyavama. So when I went and asked Satyavama, did you offer this prasad? Then he said, no, I have made the offering to Prabhupada. Then I came back and told Sri Gurudev that Satyavama was telling that he has offered to Sri Prabhupada. Then Gurudev told me, call Satyavama. So I called Satyavama. Then he said, what is this offering to Srila Prabhupada? Is it mentioned in scripture? It is mentioned in scripture that you offer to Krishna and you give Krishna Prasad to the Guru. You cannot make direct offering to Guru. So, in that way, he actually taught us that Chaturveda Sri Bhagavata Prasad Swadharma Trupta Hari Bhakta Sangha. So the spiritual master becomes very pleased when he gets Krishna Prasad. So we cannot make direct offering to the spiritual master. First we offer to Krishna, then that Prasad we offer to the spiritual master, who releases that Mahaprasad with the devotees. So that was one teaching Sri Gurudev gave us. And generally, because Sri Gurudev always wants to correct his disciples and sometimes chastises them so they can become perfect devotees to serve Radha and Krishna. So generally, we were always afraid of Sri Gurudev. So one day, Sri Gurudev was sitting in a relaxing mood. Then I dared to ask him. I asked him, Sri Gurudev, how are you so intelligent? Because Gurudev was very intelligent. So I asked him, I was wondering how Gurudev is so intelligent. Then he smiled and told me, you know, in my childhood, I have drank cow's milk. So much cow's milk I have drank. So, in that way, in a relaxing mood, he was telling this. So, another time in Govardhan, Srila Gurudev was there, and that time in Govardhan, we had a scooter only, no other vehicle. And that time our renovation work was also not done. So Gurudev wanted to stay there in Govardhan and we are staying for a few days in a very humble situation. There was not a proper bed for him that day. And he would take a mat and go to the roof and sleep on the roof on a mat, looking towards Govardhan. And because there are so many mosquitoes, we will put a mosquito net only, but he will sleep on the simple mat. And he would do his bhajan. So one day he told me that he would take me to Rasasthali. So then after morning breakfast, I drove scooter. Gurudev was sitting in the back of the scooter. And I took him to Rasasthali. And that time, Rasasthali there was quite many trees and bushes. They were nice trees. Now they have made a road there near Rasasthali. So then Gurudev got down from the scooter. Then he told me that now you can go back to ashram. So then I asked Gurudev, so Gurudev, how you go back to ashram? It is a long way from the ashram. Then he said, don't worry, I will come. So Gurudev stayed alone to do his bhajan at Rasasthali. So then I came back, but I was wondering that how Gurudev would come back. It's a long way. So I was waiting in the ashram. I came back to Govardhan ashram and I was waiting. Then it passed to 1 o'clock, noon time. So, and there was time for his lunch and Gurudev had not arrived. So I went to the roof of the ashram and looking towards the road that whether Gurudev was coming or not, but I did not see him. Then I was becoming a little impatient. Then I came down and went towards the gate. And when I came out from the gate, then I saw one tractor was coming on the road. And some people were sitting on the tractor in Brazil. You might have seen the people, they sit on the tractor and they travel. So I saw some people were sitting on the tractor. Then tractor came, was going on the road, then it stopped in front of our ashram. So then I saw Gurudev was coming down from the tractors. I was seeing Gurudev, I smiled. Gurudev was traveling in the tractor like businesses. So Gurudev also smiled. Then he came and took his prasad. And another time also, Gurudev went from Vrindavan to Govardhan, and he stayed for a few days there. And when he wanted to come back to Vrindavan, then we wanted to arrange a taxi for him to come back to Vrindavan. But he told me that I will not go by taxi. Then I asked him, how will you go? And he said, I will go by public transport by which the Brajvasis are traveling. Then he told Gurudev that Gurudev, the public transport is very, very crowded. And you will not be able to travel with that. Then Gurudev told me, you don't worry for that. I will travel. So, because when he comes back to Vrindavan, he actually accepted the mood of Brajvasis. He wanted to become a Brajvasi. That was his mood. And even when he was staying in Dallas, he would be always thinking of the Braj. Remembering Giriraj Govardhan, all the pastime places of Braj. And sometimes he would also write to me that you are very fortunate that you are staying at the foothill of Govardhan, but I am not so fortunate that I have to do preaching to become fortunate to stay in Govardhan. So he would write like this. So when he wanted to come to Vrindavan by public transport, then I thought that it would be very difficult for Gurudev to come by public transport. And that time there was the three-wheeled tempo that makes very big sound. Now they are not received. So that was the only public transport. And there was no bus. So then I came with Gurudev, and then I came to the tempo stand. Then I told the tempo driver, because generally with the driver there is only one seat in the front. But generally the drivers, they would put two persons in one seat to get more money. So I told the tempo driver that our Guru Maharaj would go and he would sit on the front seat, but you don't put anyone else. And to ensure that, I gave him some money for another extra man. So you take this money, but don't put anyone. So then Gurudev came with that tempo to Vrindavan. So in that we see his simplicity, that when he came to Vrindavan, he always wanted to stay in a simple way like Brajavasis. And we see his bhajan kutir in his ashram. So small room, maybe 8 by 8 feet something. That was his bhajan kutir. He was staying in that room. And there was no AC or no cooler even. So he was taking that humble attitude when he was residing in Braj. And in this way, he was also teaching us how to stay in Braj and how to deal with Brajvasis. So there was a Brajvasi Brahman in Govardhan. He usually come to our ashram almost every day. And I had a very good relationship with him, that Brajvasi Brahman. And one time Gurudev had come to Govardhan, and with him I think Giridhari Maharaj was there. So both of them were sitting in the garden and chanting, looking towards Govardhan. And I was sitting in the back. So that time that Brajvasi Brahman came. And so Gurudev was also very fond of that Brajvasi Brahman. Because he was every day coming to the temple, Govardhan Ashram. So sometimes Gurudev would also write to me from Dallas, and he would ask me in the letter that whether that Brajvasi Brahman was coming to the ashram every day or not. So that day, when Gurudev was chanting outside in the garden, so that Brajvasi Brahman came. So I was calling him to sit next to me, but he was very fond of Gurudev. So he went and sat next to Gurudev. There was another empty chair was there. He sat next to Gurudev and he started talking in Hindi to Gurudev. So I thought that Gurudev was chanting and this Brajvasi Brahman was talking to him in Hindi, and Gurudev would not understand what he was talking. And his chanting will be disturbed. So I called him to sit next to me. When I called that Brajvasi Brahman, instead of coming to sit next to me, he just left. And he was going out of the gate. And when Gurudev saw this, then he was very upset. And he told me that why did you send that Brahmin away? So then I told Sri Gurudev, he was talking in Hindi to you, you are chanting. I thought you will be disturbed. Then Sri Gurudev said, I was not disturbed by him. Now I am disturbed by you. That you sent him away. So then I immediately went and called him back. So that Brahmin came back and I told him sit next to Gurudev. And he sat there happily. And Gurudev was very happy. So in that way he was actually teaching us how to treat the Brajvasis. And he was actually Brajvasi in heart. And he was teaching us in that way. So anyway, Srila Gurudev left this material world in a very difficult situation. Actually, I was there in Mayapur at that time. And the previous day of his disappearance, one of our godbrother, Vishwambar Prabhu from London, he was there. He was talking to Srila Gurudev. And so Gurudev told Disappearnce was telling, he told him that tomorrow I am going back to my home. So then Disappearnce wanted to clarify that. So he asked him, that's the Gurudev, back to home means London, because he was going to London on that day. So he wanted to clarify. Then Gurudev did not answer that. Then Disappearnce was in doubt. He was thinking, why did Sri Gurudev tell this? That he was going back to his home. And then Sri Gurudev told Disappearnce that every day he was going to take a bath in the Ganges. That day also he had gone to take a bath in the Ganges noon time before Prasada. But in the evening time, after noon time, he told again Disappearnce that you go to Mother Ganges and offer my last obeisances to her. Then Disappearnce went to Mother Ganges on behalf of Sri Gurudev, offered his last obeisances to Mother Ganges. And then in the evening time, I was with Sri Gurudev and we were discussing when he should leave Mayapur to catch his flight, because the original plan was that he would have gone to Calcutta temple the previous night and stayed there. The next morning he would have caught his flight. But there was some problem in Calcutta temple that time going on. So he did not go to Calcutta, he wanted to directly go from Mayapur to airport. So I was discussing with Sri Gurudev and I was telling Sri Gurudev that Gurudev you should have to start a little early because the road is not good and it takes 4 to 5 hours. So Gurudev was supposed to leave at 4. And then I had collected 2 garlands, one from Nrsimhadev and one from Radhamada, the previous night. And I went to Sri Gurudev's quarters, 3:45 at that time, 15 minutes to 4. And when I went there, Gurudev's door was not open. Then I asked the servant that Gurudev already is ready or not to go. He could not tell me anything because the door was closed. So I was a little surprised that Gurudev was supposed to leave at 4 and is not ready. But generally I have seen in Vrindavan, even sometimes Gurudev would leave in the middle of the night and he would be on time. So then exactly at 4 o'clock Gurudev's door opened and he came out. Then I gave Radhamadhav's garland to him and he nodded his head on my head. And then but he was looking very serious. I saw him. He was very serious. Generally he would smile, but he was serious. And then he came out and we were coming with him, then devotees were standing on the way. And for the first time, some devotees had come from Taiwan. And they were also waiting. And then Sri Gurudev, that time temple was not open. So he went to offer his obeisances to Garudev. And while offering his obeisances to Gurudev, he said, "Let Gurudev take us safely to our destination." Then he offered his obeisances, then he sat in the vehicle. And that time one Taiwan devotee, elderly devotee, she started crying very loudly. So I was thinking, oh, this is not very auspicious. Since when Gurudev was leaving, she was crying very loudly. Then I was praying to Sri Nrsimhadev that Gurudev accepts his journey. And then once Gurudev was leaving, I remember Sri Nrsimhadev and prayed to him. And then Sri Gurudev left. And then at 4:30 there was Mangalarti. And during Mangalarti, I was unable to concentrate on Sansar Dharanam prayers. Again and again the thought was coming in my mind about accidents. I was trying to divert my mind from this thought of accident and concentrate on Sansar Dharanam. But again and again that thought was coming. I was praying to Sri Radharama for Sri Gurudev's safety and safe journey. And Mangalarti finished. Then Nrsimharati. After that, the same thought came again and again. While Nrsimharati was going on, I was also praying to Sri Nrsimharati. And then after Nrsimharati was over, when after Tulsi Arati, then the announcement was made. Our Sri Gurudev's accident. So anyway, whatever I have heard, one devotee from Mayapur, Bhattaswami Prabhu, he was telling me that there was postmortem, and the postmortem report was telling that Sri Gurudev left his body just before the accident. He told me this thing that it was in the postmortem report. Though I have not seen the postmortem report, but he told me this. So anyway, when the accident happened, he was chanting. Beads were in his hands and he was chanting. So in this way, Sri Gurudev left us suddenly, unexpectedly. And for myself, actually I made a mistake. Because that year my sannyas was cleared by GBCs. And Sri Gurudev asked me, where do you want to take sannyas? So I told that I would take sannyas in Govardhan, and that was my mistake. Because in front of Guru, the disciple should never express his own desire. He should leave it unto Guru. And I made that mistake. I expressed my own desire. If I had told Sri Gurudev to give sannyas wherever he wanted, then in Jagannath Mandir, just before his departure, there was an initiation ceremony he would have given me. But I missed that opportunity. So that was my realization that we always depend on the spiritual master and Krishna, then our life will be successful. Hare Krishna. Jai Sri Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj Sri Gurudev Ki Jai.
Gurudev. So, very sweet pastimes Mama shared with us. So now it's almost like 1:15. So in another 10-15 minutes, we'll be starting the Puspanjali followed by the Aarti. So now I will request Padmanabh Swami Maharaj, please give your offering in song.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutaya Srimate Tamal Krishna Goswami. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinam. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharani Nirvishaya Sasundavati Paschati Deshitari. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Sugaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Many of you may not know me personally because you may not have seen me in Krishna Balaram Mandir. I am mainly connected with our Gurukula project, Bhaktivedanta Gurukul. Originally, I was initiated by one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrother from Bagbazar Gaudiya Math, and in 1990, my Guru Maharaj left his body, and there I came and joined in ISKCON, and I came in contact with Srila Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and then I asked him. I'm very young at that time. I asked him I need a spiritual master for my spiritual guidance. He said, well, you are initiated, so I can't give you reinitiation, but you can accept me as your Shiksha Guru. And he was happily accepting me as his Shiksha Guru, as his Shiksha disciple. And to accept someone as Shiksha disciple, one doesn't need to sit in front of the yajna. But he asked me to sit in front of the yajna in Mayapur. At that time there was park, restaurant in front, Govindas, and Yajna over there. So in front of the yajna, he asked me to take vow to accept him as Shiksha Guru. And since 1990 till 2002, his departure, I was always with him when he used to come to India, in Vrindavan, especially to his quarter near in the Parkramar, in Govardhan, and also in Mayapur. So there are some pastimes I would like to share. Once, in his last visit to India, Mayapur, he was having two fixed schedules. One is to take bath in Ganga at 12 o'clock. Exactly, he used to come out of his room at 12 o'clock. And then, after that, in the evening, he used to have kirtan.
So once in the afternoon, there was lots of cloths of Srila Gurudev which was not ironed. And Gurudev left his quarter in Conch building, and he walked to Prabhupada Samadhi. And all of his disciples also went over there with Srila Gurudev. And I was alone, so I started ironing his cloth. And I didn't have the experience of ironing clothes also. So Srila Gurudev came and saw me that I was ironing. He said, Dharmadas, he was so happy that I was ironing his cloth. And he said, very light iron, very light, not heavy. And I didn't know what is light iron, what is heavy iron. So I saw he was very happy, and I was also very happy to iron all his clothes. But the next morning, in Mangalarti, just before Mangalarti, someone called me. He said, Dharma Prabhu, what you have done? I said, what I have done? He said, you ironed Gurudev's cloth yesterday? I said, yes. And I ironed so heavily that all the holes, I ironed and pressed so much that it became like burfi. And Gurudev was holding his cloth with all the burfis, and he couldn't wear all those clothes. As he said, this is the first time Dharmadas was ironing cloth, so he should have taught before ironing. No problem, I will wear this. Next time, Dharmadas, you should be careful ironing. I never went next time to iron Gurudev's cloth. Once I purchased one sandal for Srila Gurudev. I'm basically from West Bengal, from Bardhaman. So I purchased one sandal from Bardhaman, and I took it to Mayapur, and I offered it to Srila Gurudev, and this is the sandal I bought. And I know that it was Bata sandal, but it was like a rough use in his room, like that. So I said, Srila Gurudev, you can wear this while you chant in your room or in the corridor. So he very happily he accepted the sandal, and he gave it to Aghavit Prabhu, one of his disciples, and asked him to keep it. Aghavit Prabhu thought that maybe Gurudev didn't like, I don't know what he thought. He kept it somewhere, and the next morning, Srila Gurudev was searching for the sandal, and Aghavit Prabhu couldn't bring the sandal. And Gurudev said that, I won't chant unless you get back the sandal given by Dharmadas. So finally, and I didn't know where the sandal was. So finally the sandal was bought by Aghavit Prabhu, and Gurudev wore it, and he chanted his rounds. There are many pastimes, but this is the last pastime I will share, because I think there are some more devotees to speak. I think it was in 1992 or 93, Srila Gurudev came to Vrindavan, and we all Bengali disciples came to Vrindavan. We are very young, and Gurudev was residing in his apartment over there, and he asked myself and Aghavit Prabhu to carry some of his valuable luggage to Mayapur, because he was supposed to go back to Mayapur from Vrindavan. So we were asked to bring his luggages by train, and that was very valuable luggages. So we booked a train ticket, And I didn't know at that time whether there was some train from Mathura or not, but there was train from Agra. And there are 2-3 stations, railway station in Agra. Our train was from Agra, and before our departure, we went to pay obeisances to Srila Gurudev in his apartment, and Gurudev asked, "Where is your train from? From Delhi?" We said, "No, it is from Agra." He said, "How you are traveling to Agra? Did you book a taxi?" Then Agavit Prabhu said, "No, Srila Gurudev, we are going by public bus." He was so upset. He said, "Now I have 2 handicapped disciples. One Dharmadas, physically handicapped, and one Agavit, mentally handicapped, because he didn't book a taxi to go to Agra." And finally we had booked a taxi. We went to Agra, but on the way I fell sick and somehow Agavit Prabhu had to manage the whole thing. Yeah, just few days before, one of our dear god brothers, Sachidulal Prabhu, also left his body. There are many pastimes, but I know there are many devotees also to speak. Time is Jaivansha Kalpataruhascha Kripa Sindhu Bharevacha Patitanam Pavanam Vaishnavim Namo Namaha. His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj ki
Thank you, Maharaj. So we are now almost at the end of the program. So the last speaker will be, he actually came very early and he requested me that I want to speak few words. So he is our Dhritarashtra Prabhu. So you can sit here and this is the last 5 minutes, then we will have Pushpanjali. So everybody, so be ready for the Pushpanjali.
Hare Krishna. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Krishna Krishna Bhakta Sabhutta. Vanchakra Budurvas Krupachandravaya Sabhutana Bhakta Krishna. His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj Bhav ki मुझे दोबारा एक बार गौरगंज महाराज का उधर बहुत आनंद वाटिका में वहाँ भी बोले भाई 5 मिनट टाइम दिया गया। अरे आज भी बोल रहे बहुत टाइम शॉर्ट है। बताइए क्या टाइम शॉर्ट है? कुछ शॉर्ट नहीं है ना। जन्माष्टमी हम लोग 12:30 बजे तक उपवास रहते हैं, 12:30, ठीक है। महाराज के साथ मेरे जितने भी प्रभुपाद के डिसाइपल गुरु, मैं बहुत लकी आत्मा हूँ। मेरा सबके साथ मुझे संग मिला। तो बम्बई में जो भी गुरु महाराज आएंगे, मंगला आरती, गुरु पूजा, जगह दमाधु में ही प्ले करता था मृदंग। तो महाराज का एक दिन प्रोग्राम हुआ, PL सेठी सभी जानते हैं, जो टेम्पल जो उन्होंने बनवाया, बिल्डर प्रभुपाद उनके घर पे रहते थे। तो उनके घर में प्रोग्राम हुआ महाराज के, तमाल कृष्ण महाराज के। तो हम 4-6 भक्त गए, महाराज गए। तो बॉम्बे में की जहाँ भी है भारत की ये प्रथा है, भोजन के बाद दक्षिणा मिलता था। तो सभी को दक्षिणा मिला। उस दिन लिफाफा में 1100 रुपया सबका। तो सब लोग हम लिफाफा लिया, अपना अपना पॉकेट में ले लिया। जो गाड़ी में हम लोग बैठे तो महाराज बोले सबको लिफाफा मिला। सब लोग बड़े धीरे से कोई हाँ बोल रहे, कोई हाँ महाराज। तो क्या करोगे? सब लोग चुप रहे, मैं भी था मैं भी चुप था। महाराज बोले अब लोग ब्रह्मचारी हो, ये लक्ष्मी राजा राशि को जाएगा। सभी हम लोग दे दिया। दूसरा दिन प्रोग्राम हुआ, डॉक्टर मोहता प्रपात जिनको मिलते थे उनके घर में हम प्रपात जाने के बाद
प्रभुपाद के डिसाइपल उनके साथ कांटेक्ट करते थे। प्रोग्राम हुआ, वहाँ गए तो हम लोग को 6 आदमी थे। तो उसी दिन मिला लिफाफा में 2100 रुपया सबको। तो पकड़ में लिए है। एक भक्त बोला, अरे महाराज आज कुछ बोलेंगे नहीं ना? बोले हम क्या बताएं, जो बोलेंगे तो बोलेंगे। तो गाड़ी में बैठने के बाद प्रभु जी सबको लिफाफा मिला है? बोले हाँ महाराज।